In a world where a single viral post, a single text message or WhatsApp message can shape perceptions and cause chaos, right now, understanding those forces that are driving media distortion and polarization are more important than ever, and it's fantastic to have you all here. And a gentle reminder, we were discussing this before, that misinformation is false or inaccurate information. Disinformation is, of course, is deliberate and includes malicious content, and just that reminder there. And I was reading before I came on an article in El País in English that the decade that made misinformation the new normal is what we're living in right now. It talked about the chaos of information that has caught the world really by surprise, from the UK to the Philippines. The political uses of Facebook and WhatsApp have led to a complete unexpected political disruption. And that disruption, they say, is the new normal. Ladies and gentlemen, let's delve into this now. And I want to start with you, Your Excellency. First of all, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of every single person on this audience, our condolences for the more than 3,000 people that have been, nearly 4, killed in Lebanon by Israeli attacks. So our condolences to your country and your people, and thank you so much for coming here today during this difficult time. Set for us, Your Excellency, the scene of misinformation during war. How the challenges, what you've had to tackle, what people have had to tackle over the past year.
First, thanks for hosting me as a minister coming from a destroyed country. What I can tell you that we will rebuild our country on solid basis, and inshallah very, very soon. True, we were in a war and we are passing through very hard and delicate times. And we had to deal with the media landscape that was created after the war and during the war, and even before the war, and especially with this misinformation and even disinformation that we had to deal with during 1 year. We have 2 major challenges, as we spoke before, and as you know, or as you might not know, we have one priority in Lebanon as a Ministry of Information, and it's to protect the freedom of speech. So we had this double challenge, protecting the freedom of speech during the war and fighting misinformation. Mm-hmm. And the misinformation would come from the Israelis, but also from the Lebanese people. We had a lot to deal with during this period of time, and it was not easy at all. So we tried to implement as much as we can the culture of fact-checking, and we had to create a special unit in the Ministry of Information to fight all those lies, because as everybody knows, the misinformation creates polarization and much more divisions in the society, and this creates a hate speech that was really very dangerous and affected a lot the political life, the social life, and all the citizens. We had 1.5 million citizens that were displaced from their villages and cities and were spread all over the villages of Lebanon and all over the cities. And this was not easy to handle with all the flow and information that was coming out inside and outside. We would develop more if you want later.
And Your Excellency, so you've got that displacement, you've got the attacks, you've got WhatsApp messages. And people need to know what's going on in that difficult context.
As I told you, to implement this culture of misinformation and get sure of every information that comes out, and then to try to put it on serious and official platforms that would eventually, after, of course, it needs time, and this is a process that needs time to change all this landscape. to post everything on trustful platforms, and especially when we talk about the official platforms of Lebanon, we are talking about the National News Agency, that is the most reliable platform in Lebanon, and this is the main source of the real information, and this goes to the citizens of Lebanon, and also it goes to all the diplomatic missions that are in Lebanon. This was the main goal that we had to work out with.
And you just very recently, I will go to our guests in a second, but you also said, well, social media, of course, amplifies Israel's narratives globally, and you said that you wanted to avoid being dragged into the fake news published by Israel and not interacting with it in social media. How do you do that? And of course, we will come to this subject a bit more.
Well, when I said that, during the war, you have this disorder and this chaos, and a lot of Lebanese journalists or influencers used to interact with Israeli indirectly, and this was giving more danger to the people and more danger also to journalists. They were guiding them indirectly into dangerous places, and a lot of influencers also started to, as I told you, to interact with the Israeli army, and that was giving us more problems to solve. So it was something that we asked for everybody to stop this interaction, because it was causing us a lot of problems, and you have no idea what happens during a war, and especially with all this new technology, with all those new platforms. You can count hundreds of thousands of subscribers in WhatsApp groups or in Twitter accounts. So everybody, every citizen is now a television, a radio, a newspaper, a journalist, and you have to monitor everything, and it was not easy. But I guess at certain point we succeeded in having much more safe environment in this new landscape.
Excellent, great to hear this. We'll come back to you and we'll speak more about the harm that misinformation has been doing to society, but I just want to move next to you, Gregoire, and speak about Africa. You are right now in Senegal, Dakar, a country I know very well, but we're talking also about 54 countries, and there are incredibly different challenges, aren't there? We were talking about education playing such an important role in Africa.
Thank you, Maria. But before making my statement, I would like to thank Turkey government and the official of TRT who are inviting me here. This is the second time, and every time I come here, there are so many changes, many people coming in, which makes this forum very, very important. And to come back to your question, Africa is within the world. Africa is a continent within the world, facing all the challenges of the world. What Africa has, you can add on all the challenges of the world two different aspects which characterize Africa. First of all, the level of education is not the one you can find in Turkey or in other countries. The levels are very low. And even the development of what we can call electricity and Wi-Fi network. I'm bringing up these two aspects to show that in Africa, the position of media is very crucial in the polarization. Because in Africa, they will tell you, I heard it over radio, I saw it on TV, and I saw it on social network. It becomes like a sort of evangelium, the truth they cannot define, you cannot contest. And this has an impact, a big impact in the life of African.
So just to be clear, sorry to interrupt, but what people hear on radio and television, as we said, is paramount, right? They treat it as gospel.
Yes, when it comes from radio, is the truth. It comes from television, is the truth. People don't have time to cross-check the information. And this has a crucial impact in the life of people and polarize the society. Let us quote some example. In 1994, that's about 30 years ago, we had a country called Rwanda where there was a difference or the battle between Tutsi and Hutu. And there was one radio there called Radio de Mille Collines. And this radio was preaching what I can say the gospel of hatred. They were calling Tutsi cockroach, things like cockroaches. And this leads after some time to the genocide of Tutsi with 800,000 people dead.
Incredible.
Because of the work of a radio. You can see the impact of the media in the daily life of people, telling other people, oh, they are not important, they are cockroach, they are rats, they are animals, and so on. And even today, when we come 30 years back, you see in African society, you see some media calling people not to vaccinate children. Why? Because they think that vaccinating children will lead to sterilizing people, African, because it is admitted that African are many, they give birth to many, and they will tell you that don't vaccinate your child, because if you do that, it will be sterilization, which is not true. And by obeying these people, you expose your children to some diseases which lead to death. When we had COVID, for instance, in Africa, there are people, they came with vaccination. There are people on network, on social media, who were writing every day, asking people not to accept vaccination because it will bring a lot of people. And at the end of the day, we met people who were refusing vaccine and they were dying. So this is very, very important. The role of media is very, very important, because when they receive this information, for instance, they see it was on social media, it was on radio, because there are some private radio, commercial radio, who are making the promotion of that type of ideas. When they see, they say, I heard it over radio, I saw it on TV, I saw it on social media.
And there's no questioning if this is correct or not.
They don't have, that's why I was talking about education. They don't have the possibility of cross-check the information.
So what a radio anchor says, a presenter, or what a television presenter says, that will be the truth in their eyes and ears.
Yes.
And as you said,
and that's where the role of public media, public service media is very, very important. At times, we ask our members, our people, to go to the public radio, public television, to look for the truth.
You've given us some very strong examples there of what is said on radio and television there, and not being cross-checked, the role of education in Africa. We'll delve into this a bit more. Thank you so much for now, Gregoire. Gilles, you've spent more than 35 years in television. Just what do you see right now as the damage that's being done? What misinformation are you seeing from your perspective, or disinformation, both?
Yes, hello everyone. I would like to say first that we are really, as the conference title said, at a breaking point. I think that polarization is a reality. Polarization is a growing reality. And polarization, at least in my country, has nothing to do with critical thinking or with partisanship. It's something different.
Has nothing to do with critical thinking or?
Partisanship.
Perfect,
I mean, you can have some different point of view, you can discuss it, but if you are not able to have a strong dialogue, if you are in a mistrust, in a distrust situation, then polarization is coming. And I think it's very dangerous for the global society. Of course, this feeling of polarization is probably a bit boosted through two main trends. The first one is the globalization of the world. That brings anxiety, that brings complexity. And the second big point maybe is the fact that our digitalization is also bringing some problems. For example, the social media. The social media amplify all those problems in a very high level. And then it's very tough to find a dialogue. And if you don't have a good dialogue in a society, then you can't really live together. In Switzerland, if I can have a small moment speaking about my country, we have this federal system, 4 languages, and we have this direct democracy system. This direct democracy system means that people, citizens, have to vote at least 4 times per year, at least each time for 5 to 6 topics. So, to do that, to be a reasonable citizen, can we say, you need to have a correct information, a balanced information. You need to dialogue, you need to discuss. If you can't do that, the whole system is down. And something to stress also is the fact that in Switzerland, even the single people can try to propose a new law or can fight against a law. We have the initiative system or the referendum system. It means that if you can gather 50,000 signatures in Switzerland.
And do they get through? How dangerous is this?
You know, if you can gather 50,000 signatures in the country, you can propose, and you will have that, a vote, a national vote, to say yeah or not to a law. Can you imagine that? So it means that before to do that, you need to be sure that this proposition is well made. And to do that, you need to have a strong dialogue between the different parts of the society and a good media coverage. So the media coverage is a very important and significant part of the stability of a country. And I think that if Switzerland is still more or less stable, it's thanks to the capacity of the media to provide a good dialogue in a balanced way. So I will not say that we are perfect. I will not say that everything is well done. I will just say that this idea to be balanced as a media is a part of our direct democracy system. Without this idea, all the system is down.
And we'll talk about that a lot because, of course, you were in charge of a television channel for many years until recently, and we'll talk about the role that we journalists have in this. Thank you for now, Gilles. I want to move to you, Claudio, and you bring to us the voice of the Mediterranean through your organization. What sort of misinformation have you been seeing? How bad and why?
Well, disinformation, misinformation is a global phenomenon, so we all know, and basically, I think we have to be aware that this is, comes of the digital revolution, the social networks, because as Marshall McLuhan said, the medium is the message. Changing the devices, the ways we consume, changes and shapes the content of information. And more and more, there is a new business model in the world. People think that information is something free that comes from the air and lands on a laptop. But actually, so the media organizations have been forced in a way and are pushing for a different way of getting money, that is clicks and likes, as we say. And this has certainly changed the attitude of journalist profession, of the publishers, in pushing more and more fast, often not checked, and often emotional information. So this is a factor of the market which is very difficult to deal with. And I think will continue because this is how it works. As for our organization, we are trying to foster mutual knowledge and mutual respect among the actors of the Mediterranean. And I think we are a small organization, of course, but I think that one point that may give some small help, at least, to this huge issue is that we work in Mediterranean, which is a kind of microcosm of differences, cultural, religious, historical, economic, as you know. And we are trying to build a community of professionals from different languages, cultures, working on common topics. And this idea of working together is very important to overcome prejudice, stereotypes, and this is something that is very important to spread all over. Italians have prejudice towards the Tunisian and vice versa. When we work together, we find we are in a common profession and a common profession. And this is, in a small environment, this is important because at the end of the day, the big ally of misinformation is what is called the confirmation bias. So people want to hear not the truth, but they would like to think it is the truth. And overcoming prejudice among professionals, one of the assets that we may use through international cooperation to fight this situation.
Thank you so much, Claudio. I want to go back to you, Your Excellency. And if I could ask all of you to keep your microphone as near to you as possible, all our speakers. I hope the sound is good in the room. Your Excellency, just give us an idea of how much damage misinformation is doing and how does it impact Lebanon domestically, also the news that we get as international viewers and listeners.
We opened the country to all the foreign journalists and reporters, and we facilitated the accreditation of around 1,700 journalists and reporters coming from much more than 50 countries to come and see and cover as they want. And theoretically, they will spread what they will see. So this is one. And two, we also will start a campaign on all the media outlets in Lebanon to implement this culture I spoke about, culture of fact-checking. We created a platform, an official platform. It's called Fact Check Lebanon. We got training from UNESCO and AFP and other professionals. And now we will be the official source of the truth and of the fact-checking team. And this team will eventually spread the truth and the news that should be followed by everybody. And with that, we will try to find a process to insist on all the media outlets to have their own teams. And I guess that with all what we are doing, we will reach a safe place, but this will need time. And of course, the misinformation made a lot of damage in Lebanon during the war, and it could also damage after the war. We have a lot to build, we have a lot of divisions, we have a lot of reconstruction, and we would like to spread the truth, and we would like also to try to stop all this polarization we have and all this polarization that was caused with misinformation.
And what has it done, what damage has it done to society, to media, would you say?
We reach a point where we cannot even elect a president. We reach a point politically we have a very big division, and misinformation and the hate speech that was in Lebanon did a lot of damage, and we are paying the price anyways. So I guess it will take time to reach a positive place, a good place to start rebuilding our media outlets, to start implementing this culture of fact-checking. Again, I repeat it because it's the main target that we have. Adding to that, we also supported a lot the investigative journalism, because I guess all the journalists want to throw whatever they have from information just to have likes, to have viewers, to have followers, and this may cause a lot of damage. I told you that, I will give an example, that one morning we read that the Israeli ambassador in Larnaca in Cyprus was kidnapped, and the source was Reuters. It was a fake news, but everybody took it, and no one tried even to Google this information, and it reached to all the media outlets in Lebanon, and even much more regional medias, I won't name them, and it was fake news, and it did a lot of negative impact during this war. So
and how does that happen? Your Excellency, how did that happen? How do you think those processes, all those checks?
Well, we tracked this news. We tracked it for the first time. I decided to track them, and we found a guy who was throwing a joke, but it did a lot of damage, and it was everywhere, on X, on Instagram, on WhatsApp groups, and as I told you also, and very serious official medias.
That's incredible that the ambassador in Larnaca had been kidnapped.
Of course.
That's a very strong example there. Thank you for sharing that. I want to move quickly to you, Gregoire. The damage that misinformation does. Give us some real-life examples across Africa.
Yes. As I said before, the damages are many in Africa because of what I told you before, the level of instruction, also the lack of electricity. It is not everywhere that people can watch the normal TV, I mean the public service TV, because of lack of information. And you have also to take note that in Africa, which is not in other countries or in other continents, if you take, for instance, a radio does not belong to somebody in particular. It's the property of all the family. In the evening, they open the radio, and many people, many members of the family can meet around the radio and listen to news. When you open your TV, it's the same thing in the evening. You are not in your parlor with your wife looking at watching the TV. So there are the entire family and even some neighbors who comes to watch the TV. It means that when there is something, a fake news or something like that, it has an impact of all all people. That's why I said that, for instance, on vaccination, on COVID, and so on, the impact was there with many people who lost their life because they were following fake news. And in Africa today, because of that level of instruction, there are so many fake news in all the domain. At times, they are even well done that you can believe that is true.
Give us an example.
Yes, Minister was talking about the false kidnapping of the ambassador. We have so many examples in Africa. For instance, when this politics start with elections, you know that countries like Cameroon, when there are 235 tribes, different tribes, people don't, when somebody is speaking, the other one cannot listen. So when there is these messages of hatred, during the campaign, you hear people trying to build messages of hatred with an impact on the society. And we saw it during election in Senegal, for instance, where every day we had fake news coming. This thing has happened, this leader has been arrested, this thing, and there are so many fake news coming. And when you are not a serious journalist, you can believe that in that and go to the earth. That's why all the journalists in Africa, that's what we are trying to learn to all journalists, to teach to all journalists. They should remain awake. They should remain awake. Means that before broadcasting a news, you have to verify. Because the interest in Africa, everybody has interest in Africa. Everybody. And all those interests are not going the same way. At times they are different with the different orientation. So the journalists should remain awake.
All the journalists in the room, remain awake. That is the message there from Gregoire. But I mean,
yes,
people are under pressure, there's breaking news, there's so much happening, and yet remain awake is a very good message.
Yes, and Maria, there is no level where a journalist can say, I will not be awake. Because these people who are making deep fake and the other things are so clever, and they change the method every day, that you have to remain awake.
But do you think even, I mean, this is a question for so many people in the room, that we can even tell the difference and realize when we're talking about deep fakes now, how sophisticated misinformation, disinformation has become, deep fakes, I mean, and to stay awake.
Yes, you have to stay awake to make sure that you are not broadcasting a fake news or a deep fake. You have to remain awake every day.
For all the journalists in the room, remain awake, and all the broadcasters, it's very, very important to never take, as you say, the eye off the ball. Thank you very much, Gregoire. Let's move to you, Gilles. How much damage would you say it's doing across different areas of society, the trust in media as well?
You know, in a democratic system...
Can you move the mic nearer to you?
Yeah, I try, but it's not that easy.
Yeah.
In a democratic system, if the population is not able to vote, all the system is down. And I think that coming back to polarization, we should ask us why are the media components of this polarization. And I can maybe stress 5 key elements. The first one is failing trust. We had a lot of discussion about it. The second one is maybe fragmentation of the media landscape. Mm-hmm. The third one is news fatigue. You know that very well if you are working on a TV program. Then the algorithmic news, which put us in bubbles. And maybe the last one, and a very important one, is the economic pressure, both for private and public media. Now, if we ask us, what can we do? I would like to say that maybe can a public service, a well-made public service, be a good response to this problem? Because the public service media tend to unify the society, because we have to gather everybody. So we need to reach everybody. So we need to unify. That's the first point. Mm-hmm. The second one is that we boost interest for political issues. Mm-hmm. And maybe the third one is that we try to protect from manipulation. And I think that if we can work in that direction, we can try to avoid those very, very dangerous trends of polarization. And maybe to conclude, let me stress 5 to 6 points very quickly. How can we do that? The first point is maybe try to cross-cutting exposures.
Try to trust who?
Cross-cutting point of view. The first one. The second one is impartiality, if impartiality is possible to define, but it's a trend. We should attend to do that. The third one is fact-checking, of course. Then maybe local focus, because if you focus on local issues, then you develop this idea that you are part of a community. So you are more involved in the development of the society. And then media literacy. It's important to educate, to try to use on a way the media. And the last one is promoting dialogue, as I said before. We have a good experience of this dialogue in Switzerland because, you know, we have to do that in 4 languages. So we need to moderate the dialogue. We need to be part of the discussion. Yeah. And then, at the end, we can try to propose some common way. And I think it's maybe the goal we should all have in this very difficult situation.
Gilles, thank you so much. Claudio, I saw you nodding there to what Gilles was saying.
Well, I basically agree. What I would say that at the basis of the whole thing, apart from fake news properly, but there is the change of the professional journalism, and because of the change of the media. So the most important thing is, and the danger is that information is becoming, at least in my country, more and more emotional, what I call an emotional doping.
Emotional doping.
Yeah.
Information is becoming emotional. Emotional doping.
Because of the reason that Gilles said. And this is a risk. I don't see any huge damage, but for example, in my country, when you measure perception of the citizen towards issues of public interest, either social, political, and the statistical reality, there is a growing gap. For example, people in Italy think that crime is much higher than it really is because the media emphasized anything like that. Or they don't even, they think that there are dangerous places. I even heard someone tell me that he didn't want to go to Sicily because there was the danger of mafia. By the way, Palermo is now the most safe city in Italy. So there is this big gap between the emotions conveyed by media and the perception of the citizens and the reality. And this is where we have to act. And I think raising awareness among citizens is most important. Not just believe anything comes on your smartphone.
But how do you do that? But let's be practical. Not everybody can use a phone. Gregoire was saying so many places in Africa, this is completely different. They don't even have electricity. But just raising awareness among citizens, such elderly societies right now that can't even use a remote control. I'm saying my mom. How do you check this?
Well, as General de Gaulle would have said, a vast program. Big issue. A difficult job.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have to start probably to consider that in schools, media literacy must be taught as if it were history or geography.
Absolutely. Media literacy
Frankly,
must be taught in schools.
from my point of view, of course, provided it's done correctly and in a very open way. And then I think also the professional environment, that is journalism, should consider more and more initiatives, even inside the profession, to make citizens more careful in their reaction to what comes from the infosphere.
Absolutely, and we'll touch a bit more.
But still, it's a big fight.
A big fight, absolutely. Thank you, Claudio. Your Excellency, I want to come to you on this issue of misinformation literacy. And of course, misinformation thrives in war and conflict. How equipped do you think journalists are, and also the general public, as we were just saying there with Claudio, to correctly identify misinformation?
Excuse me, can you repeat it? I can't hear you.
I want to say, how equipped do you think journalists are, and also the general public, to identify misinformation?
Well, first of all, it's a culture, and they have to get used to it, and it has to be the main target of journalists is to spread truth. And we can go, I think, more far, because I saw here in Turkey two examples that were very interesting for me. A book published by Andalu agency, Kanit, The Evidence. So it was a book of photos to show everything that happened in Gaza. And another production also, a documentary done by TRT, The Holy Redemption, to explain and to prove the point of view that we have towards Israel. So I guess it's also another way to prove things and to document things and to implement much more the truth to everybody and in a very easy way. So I guess there's a lot of work to do, and those new technologies and all those new applications and AI and everything that were supposed to be created for the peace and for the good of the people are also used for war and to kill and to spread misinformation and disinformation. So I don't say that's an easy thing, and we also will think in a way of implementing this culture of social media and spreading news in schools, because at the end, everybody and every boy, every girl has his own cellular, and he can say whatever he wants and he can see whatever he wants. So it's a real danger, but we have to work in a way of transforming this into a good tool in the hands of the humanity.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
Gregoire.
Yes, I think that the best way is training. This year, we had in the AUB, African Union of Broadcasting, 9 sessions of training. 6 was based on fact-checking. 1 on the best practice on artificial intelligence, because that is a need for our journalists in Africa. We have to equip them so that they can cross-check, they can verify news before going. And we are planning to do much more training next year, because we think that that is the key point. We have to arm our journalists so that they can verify news before broadcasting.
Absolutely, really good point. Gilles, very quickly, just how do you fight it with media literacy, briefly?
We have some very interesting cooperation with the educational system in Switzerland. We try to promote the way how to learn, to live with media. We explain how dangerous is that to be without any limit on the social media. We do that on the schools. And we start at the very beginning with the small kids, just explaining, okay, it's useful, it can be a useful tool, but it's also a dangerous one. So we try to be part of the schools program.
Thank you so much. Claudio, because you have run out of time, but just very briefly, yes. Media literacy very and how we fight it.
Well, I think that, for example, the example of cooperation among journalists, I'm speaking now about the profession, of completely different culture and experience could be of importance. I personally face in our activity at COPEAM as a Palestinian and a Spanish working together on an issue of common interest. It's very enriching for both. And probably that allows the single journalist, this is a long job, to be more attentive and more out of his, let's say, coming out of his sphere of bias, let's say. So I think very much that this is a possible positive thing.
Thank you so much. Your Excellency, final words from you, because I know you've also called for verifying the enemy's crimes and archiving them to prosecute the occupation, which makes media information literacy and the fight against misinformation, not just now, but also for the future, important.
Well, as I said before, the future is to know how to deal with this new technology and to know how to implement this, this new culture, and how to form and teach journalism, the new journalism, and that is not only spread by journalists anymore. In Lebanon, for example, we have 3 million journalists because everybody has his own cellular, his own mobile, his own applications, and his own also thinking of everything that is happening. I don't think it would be a very easy thing to do, but we have no choice but to fight this and to try to implement, as I said many times, this culture.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our guests, Ziad Makary, His Excellency Minister of Information of Lebanon, and also Gregoire Ndjaka, Director General of the African Union of Broadcasting, and Gilles Marchand, former CEO of SRG, the Swiss Public Service, and Claudio Cappon, Secretary General of COPEAM. Thank you very much indeed to all of you, and thank you to our audience. You've been great. Thank you very much indeed.